I once worked at an amusement park. I once worked at SeaWorld. I never actually saw the movie, but it's true. The whole thing's true. It's a terrible place to work. This isn't part of the story, but they fired me on Christmas Day along with 90 other people. Joyeux Noel. They hired me, and I didn't think I was going to get the job because on the hiring questionnaire, they said, how can we better reach out to actors? Also, we will be performing a drug test. And I said, don't tell them you're going to be performing a drug test because actors like to smoke marijuana. I thought that was going to disqualify me, just telling them that, also smoking marijuana, but I got the job, and my job was Biff in Sea Lions Live. Now, if you've been to SeaWorld, Sea Lions Live is the one show involving animals as well as humans. And all the other shows, the humans are sort of extras, and the animals kind of take the lead. But in Sea Lions Live, it's kind of a double billing situation. There were two sea lions, Clyde and Seymour, as well as a river otter, or a sea otter, I think, and me, Biff. And Biff was the stage manager. And the premise of the show was basically Saturday Night Live. And that was such a tenuous premise that I did not realize that was the premise of the show until well afterwards when somebody told me. But it was like a sketch show, and it was their chance to do like a Survivor bit and an American Idol bit and kind of smish it all together. And who gives a shit? We're doing this show 6 times a day, and nobody came here for us. It's all Shamu. So Biff was the stage manager at the show, and the host was supposed to be Brad Pitt, but Brad Pitt dropped out, and so Biff, you gotta be the host. Doesn't make any sense. Also, their conception of what a stage manager does is somebody who comes out and sweeps the stage with a mop, which all of my stage manager friends were very upset about. But like I said, 2 sea lions in this show, Clyde and Seymour. But I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain. There were actually like 7 or 8 sea lions. And there are Clydes and there are Seymours. And for every different sketch, there's a couple of different sea lions per show. Now, I'm going to give you a little info on how to train a sea lion. Sea lions are very much like dogs, and one of the things that you have to do with animal behaviorism is called the least reinforcing scenario. If they're doing something good, you give them a treat, a piece of herring or whatever. If you do something bad, then you don't smack them or something, because then they make more movies about you. What you do instead is you do a least reinforcing scenario. You ignore them completely. So during training, I was like upstairs. There was like a balcony, and then there's a stage below, and then there's a moat in front. I was upstairs, and I was talking about the sea lions and like playing a character and everything. And the trainers, if they saw the sea lion doing something wrong, they would just stop completely and face the wall. And I would do the same during training, during rehearsal. But I couldn't do that when there's 3,000 screaming children in the audience. So that's one thing you need to know about sea lions. The other thing you need to know is, like dogs, they have a hierarchy. And so there are alphas and there are betas and omegas and all that, right? You can put 2 betas out there because they're not the top of the chain. And you can put an alpha and a beta because everybody knows their place. You cannot put 2 alphas on stage at the same time because there's a pecking order and they'll fight each other. That'll come up later. So I had been doing this show for a couple of months at this point, and I kind of had gotten my footing, and I kind of like figured out where I could ad-lib and where I could improvise a little bit and have some fun. And one of the bits, like I said, was Survivor. But they couldn't call it Survivor, they called it Survival. And I was Jeff Probing, which I thought was just a little bit too dirty of a joke for, a show for 2nd graders. But I was Jeff Probing, and I would stand in the balcony and talk about Sea Lion Island and how they're going to do all of these tests and competitions and try to win. And here comes out Clyde. And Clyde came out, and he's a big implied animal. And here comes out Seymour, and Seymour is supposed to be a little bit smaller, but the one that comes out is not small. He's rather large, and I realized something went wrong backstage, and they sent out 2 alpha sea lions. And I see this happen, and these 2 sea lions see each other. They look at each other, and they start fighting. Now, like I said, there are 3,000 children in the audience. They don't exactly know what's going on, but I feel like they can kind of tell that this isn't exactly what's supposed to be going on. So I try ad-libbing a little bit. I go, well, it's certainly a fierce competition, and they start fighting even more. And they really start going at it. And then one of them kind of takes back and goes into the moat. Now this moat is a giant, like 50,000 gallon swimming pool, essentially. You know, occasionally we would get in the thing, but you know, with the sea lions and do dances and stuff. They would get in this, and it's a sparkling 50,000 gallon pool, just sparkling blue, and they start fighting. And I'm trying to ad-lib. I go, oh, well, it's certainly a tough day in Sea Lion Stadium. Meanwhile, all of the trainers on the stage are just facing the wall. And these sea lions are fighting, and I'm trying to figure out what to do. And that's when I learned a third thing about sea lions. Sea lions have a couple of defenses. They can fight, but their arms aren't very long, so they can't really fight that much. They can yell, which certainly does nothing. But much like squids, who can run away in a shroud of ink, sea lions can do this too, but they don't have ink sacs. They just got a bunch of shit. So this 50,000 gallon swimming pool turns murky brown instantly. Now you've heard this noise before. Ew! But what you haven't heard, and what I cannot recreate for you, is that noise by 3,000 second graders in perfect unison. It's ethereal, it's strange, it's heavenly in a weird way, but that noise just kind of descends upon the crowd, and all of these, all of this shitty water just kind of spraying everywhere, and finally, one of the trainers kind of looks behind himself, sees all this going on, grabs a microphone and says, "Folks, we're gonna let you in on a little secret. This wasn't supposed to happen." And we kind of muddle through it. They managed to grab one of the sea lions, I don't quite remember how, get it backstage, and we just move on to the next bit. And that was my third show with 3 more to do that day, and I had to live with that memory for the rest of the day and the rest of my life. Thank you very much.